I want to thank President Kathleen Plinsky for having us. Here we're going to talk about combating violent extremism. In the wake of everything that's happened, it's important for us to come out and protect a free market of ideas, a place for debate and discourse, fundamental principles that our founders wanted to ensure that we would have here in the United States of America. We got a great team of state officials here today, our statewide prosecutor, Brad McVeigh, our Commissioner of Education, Stasi Kamoutsas, no greater fighter for teachers and students than Stasi. We've got Mike Sasso and John Davis from the College Board. Everybody knows about the recent assassination and what it represents. Charlie Kirk was an individual that believed in discourse, that believed in debate, that believed in the exchange of ideas. And what happened to him is such a tragedy because he literally would sit down on campuses and invite people to engage in discussion. You could ask him any question. He wasn't afraid of any question. And unfortunately, someone who disagreed with his ideology chose not to respond with discussion or debate, but instead to assassinate him and take his life. So it's never been more important for people to speak up, for us to have safe academic environments where people feel confident to engage in discussion, free from attack, free from violence. So today we're going to be announcing a new tool in the Office of the Attorney General, a new portal, the Combating Violent Extremism portal, where people will be able to report anything they observe or hear that is a call for violence or a threat for violence against other individuals. And let me be clear, we respect the First Amendment more than anybody. We're not going to be the cancel culture that we've seen for so long from the left. We're not going to believe in silencing individuals. But there's a big difference when it comes to a threat of violence, a call for violence. That is not protected by the First Amendment. And if we get a report of such threats, we will immediately refer them to our investigators and we will work with law enforcement to protect our citizens. We must protect before people are shot, before explosives go off. We must protect before people are injured or lose their lives. Lately, we've seen political violence more so than ever. We've seen BLM riots that burn cities down. We've seen people that launch attacks in Catholic churches and schools, killing children. We've seen a disproportionately high number of people that identify as transgender engaged in shootings. Just last week we heard that the attempted attack on Justice Kavanaugh again was somebody that's struggling with one of these disorders. We saw the Pennsylvania governor's home set ablaze by a pro-Palestinian radical. We've seen assaults on federal immigration law enforcement officials go up over 1,000%. And of course, we all know what happened to Charlie Kirk. So today we're launching this portal. People that see things, whether it be videos, images, text messages, calls for violence, can go to myfloridalegal.com/CVE, myfloridalegal.com/CVE to report these acts or threats of violence. And believe me, there will be no tolerance here in Florida for political violence or extremism. Now, First Amendment aside, when it comes to people that are celebrating or, taking joy in the murder of Charlie Kirk, I do believe there's a heightened standard for teachers. If you are celebrating a murder, I don't want you in a public school near my kids. I can tell you that right now. We've had some incidents across the state. I'll let the Commissioner of Education speak here in a second. But if you are going to create an unsafe learning environment that makes kids fearful, that makes parents fearful, you do not need to be in the classroom, and we will take action. So thank you for being here today. It's somewhat of a somber topic. I hate that we have to be here talking about this, but the reality is evil is out there, dangerous people are out there, And we've got to be a country that wins with ideas and not deadly violence. So with that, I'll turn it over to Stasi to come up and tell us about what he's working on. And we'll have his back.
Well, thank you, Attorney General James Uthmeier, for having me here today. I want to thank President Plinsky, as well as Board Chair Sasso, Vice Chair Davis for having me here, as well as some of the other trustees with the college that are here. Thank you for hosting us. As public servants, educators hold a position of trust. Families count on them to lead with integrity and create safe, respectful learning environments for our students. The vast majority of Florida educators come to work each and every day to fulfill that mission. Just last week, myself, as well as Secretary Davis, had the ability to go to my alma mater, my high school in Miami, and I was able to connect with plenty of educators who were tremendous role models in my life and were key to my success. They serve, as well as so many across our state, with dedication and professionalism, creating safe, supportive environments where students can thrive and families can trust that their children are receiving a world-class education. However, a small number of recent social media posts made by a few number of teachers have deeply violated that trust. These posts, made by individuals tasked with protecting the health, the safety, and the welfare of students, have celebrated and encouraged violence in schools. Let me be clear, this is completely unacceptable and it will not be tolerated. As these posts continue to circulate, more and more students are exposed to the dangerous and false idea that violence is an acceptable response to differing beliefs, an idea that has no place and will have no place here in Florida schools. 2 weeks ago, I issued a memo to all district superintendents, providing clear guidance and expectations for districts to share with their teachers. In Florida, we uphold the First Amendment, and we foster civil discourse as well as open dialogue in our schools. However, this commitment does not extend to promoting or glorifying violence as a means of resolving disagreement. The Office of Professional Practices Services, which is housed in the Florida Department of Education, will be conducting thorough investigations into each case where this type of conduct has been posted. Our Office of Professional Practices Services investigated a teacher specifically in Clay County who made callous and unconscionable comments on social media celebrating the death of Charlie Kirk. Specifically, she said, "This may not be the obituary we were all hoping to wake up to, but this is a close second for me." And attached to that post was an article explaining that Charlie Kirk was assassinated at a school. There was an outcry from the community regarding the teacher's comments, with the Clay County School District receiving more than 500 complaints. The district had to increase security measures to ensure the safety of students and teachers, costing the district time and money and furthering the discomfort of the students in that district. Based on the evidence and investigation, this morning I found probable cause for 4 different charges. Number 1, gross immorality. Number 2, failure to protect the health, safety, and welfare of students. Number 3, reduced effectiveness as an educator. And number 4, failing to distinguish her personal views from that of a public educational institution. As a result, we will be seeking the revocation of this educator's license. Holding educators accountable for speech that celebrates violence in schools is not a violation of free speech. It is a necessary step to uphold the standards of the teaching profession and the safety of our schools. Thank you again, Attorney General Uthmeier, for your continued support as we hold these individuals accountable. Educators must always remember that their words matter. Students look to teachers as role models, and comments that celebrate violence in schools encourages young, impressionable minds to engage in violent behavior. In Florida, this will not be tolerated. Thank you, Attorney General.
Yeah, again, we do not believe in censorship. We respect the First Amendment as much as we might disagree with some of these gross things people are saying, as horrific as those comments might be. But it is not a violation of the First Amendment to expect our teachers to create a safe learning environment. And when you are celebrating murder and requiring the state to go through extra security measures, that's not right, and we're going to put a stop to it. So next we will hear from Mike Sasso from the College Board.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Valencia College. I want to start by thanking Governor Ron DeSantis for his leadership on this topic. Obviously, Attorney General Uthmeier. Thank you, James. Commissioner Kamoutsas, and so many others who I know have been working intently on this, as well as my fellow Board of Trustees members. In preparing for some remarks today, I went back and watched some statements that Charlie had shared about, excuse me, I'm fighting a cold still, it's this back to school bug. But the comments to me really struck a chord, and they were two things. The question was, Mr. Kirk, what are words that you live by? And there were two things that he shared. One was just a statement. I don't know if it's attributed to anyone in particular, but it was, "This too shall pass." And many think of that in the context of grief. Charlie said something different, which really I hadn't considered before, which is that it's a statement that he thinks of when he's celebrating or when he was on top. To not forget that he would not always be able to celebrate or to think back on that time and to remember that fond memory. And thinking about his passing now, that's really struck a chord for me about Charlie. Because Charlie's time did pass, but the time for others is also coming. The second statement that Charlie shared was from the book of Romans. It's Romans 8:28. In that, the Apostle Paul wrote, "And we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love him, who have been called according to his purpose." And what Paul is saying is, if you're going through a struggle, don't forget that the Lord's going to work for your good and for the good of others. So don't be disheartened. And I think these are words of encouragement that are definitely exhibited by the vast majority of our educators in the state of Florida. And we're all very grateful for that. And here at Valencia College, we've long held a statement of ethics that we hold all of our employees accountable to. And I think it embodies these values. I'm going to share just a portion of it. All Valencia College employees are expected to treat others with respect, regardless of differences of point of view. The achievement of our mission is predicated on our ability to inquire, test, assess, and explore ideas that may not be popular or common. Every college employee is expected to contribute to a safe environment where the free exchange of ideas is encouraged and to treat one another with dignity. I feel like Charlie could have written that himself. And we've had that here for, as far as I can tell, 10, 15 years. That's not a new statement for this college. And I think that's probably true at all of the colleges throughout the state of Florida. If you can't find that verbatim, you've got words that are very close to it. And I know that I'm very grateful for all of our educators here at Valencia and statewide who live up to that value every single day. Thank you to all of you who do that. It is unfortunate, though, that some fall short of expressing that. Those who find some temporary value in extolling the slaying of Charlie Kirk or anyone else who would just desire to sit on a college campus and exchange free ideas are not upholding the standard that has to be honored by our educators in Florida. And I think it goes deeper than that. I'm very grateful and frankly blessed to have people like the Attorney General and the Commissioner on Education here to stand up for those students who need to go to classrooms every day and learn with those teachers. We have higher standards for educators, and I think that's entirely appropriate. They're entrusted with our students and our children, and they need to uphold those, those standards throughout the entire state of Florida. There is no value in celebrating the death of a person on a college campus. Political violence is never appropriate, And it's particularly destructive when it happens where you're supposed to be able to express these ideas that are controversial in a safe way. And so we're very grateful for what we've seen here today. Thank you very much, Governor Ron DeSantis. Thank you very much, Attorney Uthmeier and Commissioner Kamoutsas. We appreciate all the hard work that you've done to protect the state of Florida. Thank you.
Now, when I knew we'd see John Davis this morning, Stassi and I had a bet. Would it be more or less than 10 seconds for him to make fun of the Gators? And it was less.
Good morning. First, I would like to also thank Governor DeSantis for his unwavering leadership in ensuring that Florida continues to be a beacon of hope and a blueprint of excellence, especially within our educational system. I want to also thank our Attorney General as well as our Commissioner of Education for being here today. Also, would just like to recognize our Chair Sasso, President Plinsky, and fellow members of our Board of Trustees for their continued leadership as well as their commitment to the work that we do here. As Vice Chair of the Board of Trustees here at Valencia College, and as a proud product of Florida's education system, who has devoted my life to service, our youth, as well as education, I never imagined that we would reach a point where political division would override moral clarity and where left versus right would supersede right versus wrong. Now, although we live in a country where free speech exists and it's protected, decency, integrity, moral responsibility, and a strong ethic compass are non-negotiable, especially for those who are tasked with leading and helping to set the future for our future leaders. In the aftermath of Charlie Kirk's assassination, the celebratory, vulgar, and dehumanizing rhetoric that was posted on social media, including by individuals that are affiliated with our educational institutions, stand in stark contrast to the values that Valencia College upholds and the standards that guide Florida's educational system. Our educators are more than instructors. They are role models, shaping character, not just curriculum. Their words and actions do matter, both in the classroom and outside of the classroom. And when this line of decency is crossed, they don't just betray their professional responsibility, they erode the moral foundation of our institutions and set a dangerous example for our students. Let me be clear. If your public conduct brings dishonor to this institution and others, there should be and there will be consequences. These are basic standards that we must uphold. These are basic standards that we must uphold, even when no one is watching. Anything else is unacceptable. Thank you.
Next, we'll hear from our statewide prosecutor, Brad McVeigh, who's been putting a lot of bad guys away, and thanks to some of our statewide prosecutors for being here.
Thank you, General. Thank you, Valencia, for hosting us. Beautiful campus. The Office of Statewide Prosecution will have zero tolerance when it comes to political violence and credible threats of violence. This is about protecting lives and protecting the rule of law. Threats to kill, threats to do bodily harm to other individuals, threats of terror, publicizing personal identifiable information with the intent to harass your political opponents or intimidate political opponents. Those threats against law enforcement, prosecutors, our judiciary, elected officials, their staff, their families. Unacceptable, and these type of threats will result in immediate and swift action by our office. This portal will allow us to have immediate collaboration with law enforcement. It'll allow us to work with law enforcement to get the appropriate evidence that we need immediately, so there's no delay, so that we can prosecute these cases successfully. And in the current environment in which we live today, the Office of Statewide Prosecution is going to take these kind of threats very seriously. We believe this is a matter of life and death, so we intend to treat it like that. Thank you again for hosting us, Valencia, and thank you, Commissioner, and thank you, Attorney General.
So to close out, if you see something, say something. If there's chatter out there that looks like it is a real threat, let us know, let us investigate it, and let us try our best to save lives. And I want to thank our law enforcement. I want to thank the Sheriff's Office for being here, all of our sheriffs up and down the state. We've got the best law enforcement in the entire country, the best police chiefs in the entire country. And it's really not that hard to figure out. You see other states with rising crime rates. You see a lot of these blue cities that have murder after murder. And in Florida, as a state, we have record lows because we back. Yeah, celebrate that. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. We have record crime lows because we back our law enforcement. We give them the tools they need to be successful, and they know we have their backs. We give them the tools to go do their job, and they save lives. So thank you to all of our law enforcement for being here and making this the safest state in the country. And with that, I think we got time for a few questions till people.
Well, our office would never confirm an open or pending investigation, so that would have been the school district. I cannot, because we cannot confirm open and pending investigations. So today, the reason I'm talking about the Clay County teacher is because I found probable cause. That means our office did an investigation. I found probable cause. Now it goes through the due process route where the individual can decide through an election of rights whether they want to engage in a settlement, whether they want to go to an informal hearing through the Education Practices Commission, whether they want a formal hearing through the Division of Administrative Hearings, or whether they'd like to voluntarily surrender their certificate. But I cannot comment on any open pending investigations, nor can I confirm that there are open and pending investigations with specific teachers.
Commissioner, can you tell us how many teachers in Central Florida you're investigating? Do you have a number on that?
Again, I cannot, because I cannot confirm open and pending investigations. I'm restricted by statute to confirm open and pending investigations.
AG, can you talk about, are there any specific threats here in Florida that caused you to open this portal?
I'll just say generally, we've seen chatter online that looks concerning, and, we're going to take everything seriously until we know that it is not a legitimate threat. So that's as much detail as I'll provide right now. But I know people at home have been looking for anybody, on the other end, willing to receive a tip or a concern, and so we believe we need a centralized portal. And I should say, if there's, wrongdoers out there that want to make a false report, that is illegal too. So we'll take a look at this. We're going to take everything seriously, and if you abuse this, if you provide something in a dishonest fashion to law enforcement, we'll hold you accountable as well.
Well, there could be some concern that someone is just going to, file these complaints over and over again on something they don't like. I mean, how do you combat that?
Well, look, like I said, we're going to take everything seriously until it's not a viable threat. If it's not a viable threat, we don't have to worry about it. And if it's somebody that, wants to cause a scene and provide false information, then that's a separate problem.
To be clear, the portal isn't just, we're on a college campus right now, but it's not related just to college.
No, this is threats of violence generally. Okay, thanks everybody. Thanks, everyone.